Daddy, why don't you look at me anymore? When 7-year-old Liam asked this, his voice trembling, his small fingers brushing the doorway, nobody knew the truth. His father, Alexander Hale, the billionaire oil tycoon of Houston, wasn't blind at all. He was pretending he couldn't see a thing, pretending he lived in darkness, pretending he depended entirely on the woman he planned to marry, because he needed answers, brutal ones. Did Serafina, his flawless camera-ready fiancée, truly love him, or did she only love the Hale fortune? The truth he uncovered would destroy everything. A woman colder than a winter grave, a loyal maid framed for crimes she didn't commit, a hidden cabin in the woods, a kidnapping, a revenge plan soaked in venom, and a secret so dark it nearly cost Alexander his life. Watch until the end, because you won't believe what Serafina Hale did when her hunger finally came to light. Before we continue, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. This story gets wilder with every second. Alexander Hale woke that morning with a weight inside his chest, one that felt heavier than the thick Texas humidity pressing against the panoramic windows of the Hale estate. He lay in his king-size bed, staring at the ceiling as the sun crawled over the horizon, painting the sky orange and gold. Something had been whispering to him for months. Something sharp, something cold. A question he no longer knew how to ignore. Did Serafina love him, or the empire his family spent 4 generations building? Thousands of acres of Hale-owned land stretched beyond his window. Oil fields, gas wells, solar farms, and cattle ranches. A dynasty worth billions. And all of it, every drop of sweat, every risk, every fortune, would one day pass to Liam. Liam, who had lost his mother 3 years earlier. Liam, who became quieter with every passing month. Liam, who deserved a stepmother that loved him. Alexander sat up slowly, rubbing his temples. His biggest fear wasn't losing money. It was losing his son. "Dad?" A small voice came from the doorway. Alexander turned. Liam stood there, holding a drawing with both hands, a little lopsided, scribbled with bright colors, but full of love. His brown eyes, so much like his mother's, glimmered with hope. Alexander felt his heart cave in. "What'd you draw today, buddy?" he asked. Liam shuffled closer. "A castle, with you and me on the top." His lip quivered. "And Serafina, too, if you want." Alexander swallowed hard. Guilt burned in his chest. Liam was trying so hard to accept Serafina, more than she'd ever tried with him. "That's beautiful," Alexander murmured, crouching beside his son. "We'll put it on the fridge." Liam's face brightened. But before Alexander could say anything more, heels clicked sharply across the polished marble floor. Serafina Halston, the woman half of Texas called the Golden Fiancée, stepped into the room, flawless as a magazine cover. Silky honey blonde hair, a champagne-colored satin robe tied perfectly around her waist. Makeup done at 7 a.m. because Serafina didn't wake up looking anything less than perfect. She glanced at Liam. Not warmly, not kindly, just glanced. "Sweetheart," she said to Alexander, voice smooth as ice, "your morning coffee got cold. Again." Then her eyes flicked back to Liam. Her smile vanished instantly. "Aren't you supposed to be in tutoring? Go along now." Liam's shoulders folded in. Yes, ma'am." Alexander's jaw hardened. "Liam," he said softly, brushing the boy's hair back, "you're not in trouble. Go study, and we'll hang out after, promise." Liam wheeled out of the room, slow, hesitant. Serafina didn't even watch him leave. Instead, she glided toward the dining room, her usual monologue about engagement photographers, the 6-tier ivory cake she wanted flown in from New York, and the designer dress she absolutely needed to wear. But Alexander wasn't listening anymore. He was studying her. The carefully rehearsed smiles, the sudden interest she developed in charity work, the way she behaved when she thought no one was watching, and more importantly, the strange phone call he'd overheard 3 nights ago. Serafina whispering, "He'll believe anything, just like his father did." Those words haunted him. So today, he was doing something drastic, something insane. After breakfast, he would ride out alone, on Onyx, his prize stallion, and he would fall. Not a fatal fall, not dangerous, but enough to stage a believable head injury. Enough to justify waking up blind. It was reckless, risky, even childish. But Alexander was a man who trusted actions, not words. Trusted kept him alive in business, and distrust had saved him in ways he'd never publicly admit. He needed the truth before he legally tied this woman to his wealth, or worse, to his vulnerable son. 2 hours later, the scream tore across the ranch like a siren. "Mr. Hale fell! He's hurt! Somebody call a doctor!" Heads snapped up. Workers rushed. Horses panicked. Serafina came running across the yard, her designer heels sinking into the dirt with each step. "Alexander!" she cried. "Oh my God! Talk to me, Alex!" He lay on the ground, eyes half closed, hand against his forehead. He groaned dramatically. Serafina knelt beside him. "Can you hear me?" she whispered urgently. "Alex, everything is blurry. I can't." "You can't what? Alex, what?" "I can't see." Gasps broke through the air. Ranch hands looked at each other, horrified. Serafina froze. For half a second, just a flicker, something in her eyes shifted. Not fear, not panic, not heartbreak, but calculation. It lasted only a moment, but it was enough. She cupped his face suddenly, her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. "I'm right here, baby. I'm not going anywhere. We'll get through this, together. I promise." But Alexander wasn't listening to her words anymore. He was listening to her breathing. Steady, controlled, almost rehearsed. A chill slid down his spine. Later that afternoon, when the doctor examined him and claimed the blindness was likely stress-induced and temporary, Serafina seemed almost relieved. Too relieved. And then, after everyone left the room, she thought he was asleep. He wasn't. She whispered into her phone, low, urgent, sharp. "It's done. He can't see a thing." A pause. "No, he's not suspicious. He trusts me completely." Another pause. "Of course the will still leaves everything to him. For now. But accidents happen." Alexander's heart stopped cold. His fiancée wasn't just gold digging. She was planning something far worse. He needed help. He needed a witness. He needed someone loyal. And strangely enough, that someone would be the maid. The quiet one Serafina always yelled at. Maria Alvarez, the woman Serafina despised most. The woman Alexander would soon learn was the only reason he survived long enough to uncover Serafina's darkest, deadliest secret.
Maria Alvarez had worked at the Hale estate for 6 years, but she had never seen the place so unnervingly quiet. Not even after Mrs. Hale's funeral. Not even during the worst Texas storms. This silence was different. Shaking, waiting, watching. Because the master of the house, Alexander Hale, was now blind, injured from a fall that shouldn't have happened, and a fiancé who looked a little too calm for a woman whose billionaire partner had just lost his sight. Maria pushed her cleaning cart through the west hallway, keeping her steps light on the polished floor. Every room smelled faintly of lavender, the kind Serafina demanded be sprayed every morning, even though it gave the staff headaches. She paused at the corner where the hall opened into the sitting room. Voices. Low. Hushed. She recognized the first instantly, that smooth, practiced tone Serafina used when she wanted something. "Alexander, honey, how are you feeling now?" His answer was rough, tired, quiet. Still the same. Everything's dark. Maria's chest tightened. Even if he was faking, she didn't know. The pain in his voice felt too real, too heavy. Maria had worked for the Hales long enough to sense when something was wrong. Alexander was a stoic man, rarely emotional. But today, he sounded broken. Serafina's heels clicked softly as she approached him. "Well, the doctor said you should rest. No stress, no sudden movements, and absolutely no visitors. It's too much stimulation." Maria froze. Visitors? She hadn't heard anything about visitors. Alexander exhaled. "Serafina, my sister said she was flying in. You didn't—" "I canceled," she replied bluntly. "You don't need people swarming you. I'm all the support you need." Maria's brows furrowed. Cancel his own sister. No one had that authority, except Alexander himself. And he clearly hadn't done it. Something was wrong. Very, very wrong. Maria ducked back behind the hallway wall as Serafina swept out of the room. The moment the fiancé was gone, she peeked in. Alexander sat on the couch, jaw clenched, hands trembling lightly. Not from blindness, but from something else. Fear? Anger? Shock? Maria wasn't sure. She stepped forward hesitantly. "Mr. Hale? Sir? Do you need anything?" Alexander's head turned sharply toward her voice. "Maria." He exhaled with a mix of relief and tension. "Come closer." She approached slowly. "Serafina didn't tell you were nearby." Maria swallowed. She doesn't tell you a lot of things, sir." Something flickered on his face. Not surprise, confirmation. He gestured weakly. "Sit for a moment." Maria perched on the edge of the chair opposite him. Alexander's voice dropped into a whisper. "Maria, something's not right." Her breath caught. "Yes, sir. I know." He lifted his head slightly. "You know?" Maria hesitated only a second before nodding. "She never treated you, or Liam, with care. Not when the cameras weren't rolling. She yells at staff when she thinks you're asleep. She throws things." Maria's voice softened. "And, sir, when you fell today, she didn't rush out right away. She waited almost a full minute before going outside." "What?" His voice cracked. Maria nodded. "I was outside sweeping the front steps. I heard the men calling for help. But she didn't move. She was on the phone. She hung up only when she heard the ranch hands shouting louder." Alexander sank back into the cushions. Everything he feared was true. And now, he was cornered. Maria watched him carefully. "Sir, if there's anything you need—" "There is." Alexander's voice sharpened unexpectedly. "I need you to pretend I don't know I can still see." Maria blinked. The world stopped. "What?" "I'm not blind," he whispered, leaning closer. "I'm pretending." Maria's hand flew to her mouth. "But why?" Alexander inhaled shakily. "Because I needed to know if Serafina truly cared, and what I've heard so far," he shook his head, "is worse than I imagined." Maria stared at him. Her chest pounded. Her palms were sweating. She had never been part of anything like this. She was just a maid, trying to raise 2 younger siblings on her own. A woman who wanted peace, not danger. "Mr. Hale, if she finds out you're lying—" "I know," he cut in firmly. "That's why I need help, And you're the only person I trust in this house. Maria's breath caught again. Trust. From a billionaire. From a man as powerful as Alexander Hale. What do you need me to do? Before he could answer, the door flew open. Serafina. Maria jumped so hard the chair skidded beneath her. She stumbled to her feet instantly. Serafina's eyes narrowed, like two blades glinting beneath the chandelier lights. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. Maria froze. "Mr. Hale asked for water, ma'am." "I didn't hear him ask," she replied sharply. "Leave, now." Maria lowered her head and backed out quickly, but not before she heard Serafina's voice shift into that sickeningly sweet tone she used only when she wasn't being watched by anyone she considered important. "Alex, darling." Fabric rustled. She was sitting beside him. "I was thinking, while you're recovering, maybe you should sign the property management rights over to me temporarily." Alexander's stomach twisted. "Oh, that's sudden." "Well, you can't oversee things while blind, love." She laughed softly, but it wasn't a warm laugh. "It's only until you get better, and if something happens before then, the estate will be safe with me, right?" Her words were honeyed poison. Alexander forced his voice to remain steady. "I need to think about it." Serafina paused. Her tone cooled several degrees. "Don't take too long." Maria, still nearby in the hall, didn't dare breathe. She heard everything, every word hidden beneath a smile. This wasn't gold digging. This was planning. Serafina wasn't just after money. She was after control. And with a man she believed was blind, it would be easy. Maria slipped away, heart pounding. She needed to help him. But how? As she entered the servants' quarters, her phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. "Stay away from Mr. Hale, if you know what's good for you." Maria felt the world tilt. Serafina was already watching her, already suspicious, already dangerous. And in the shadows of the Hale estate, the real game was just beginning.
Elena Alvarez hadn't slept in 2 nights. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Vanessa's hand covering Richard's mouth, saw the way his fingers twitched under the sheets, weak, slowed, terrified. He wasn't blind, he wasn't unconscious, he was trapped inside his own body, and Elena was the only person who knew. She spent the early morning polishing the brass stair rails, pretending to mind her business while keeping one ear tuned to the master bedroom. The Mangaloni mansion was quiet, too quiet. Even the ranch hands outside seemed to sense the tension settling over the property, like a storm cloud ready to burst. Elena wiped her palms on her apron and whispered to herself in Spanish, "Dios mío, what am I supposed to do?" Because if she made one wrong move, Vanessa would destroy her, just like she had already destroyed Richard. Vanessa swept downstairs around 7 a.m., heels echoing through the foyer like gunshots. A perfect white suit, diamond earrings, hair curled in effortless money. She looked like a CEO stepping into a boardroom, not a woman caring for her blind, recovering fiancé. "Elena," she said without looking at her, "I need the guest wing spotless. I'm expecting visitors." "Visitors? At a time like this?" Elena forced a polite smile. "Of course, ma'am. Is Mr. Montgomery feeling any—" "He'll survive. Blind people don't need much." Those words hit her like a slap. Don't need much? Richard was a good man, a patient father, the most respectful employer she had ever had. And Vanessa was treating him like luggage, expensive, inconvenient, and replaceable. Vanessa stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Remember what I said. You don't go into that bedroom unless I ask. I don't want anyone confusing him." Confusing, or uncovering what she was doing to him. Elena nodded, because at this point nodding was the only safe option. Vanessa left through the kitchen door, the sound of gravel crunching under her heels fading with distance. When the house fell silent again, Elena finally allowed herself to breathe. Richard needed help, Gavin needed answers, and Vanessa needed to be stopped. Upstairs, Richard lay awake in the dim bedroom, eyes closed, chest rising in slow, shallow breaths. He could hear everything: the clatter of dishes downstairs, the ranch foreman shouting orders outside, even the faint hum of the air purifier in the corner. But he couldn't move, couldn't open his eyes, couldn't speak. Not after the medicine Vanessa gave him. She called it anxiety pills after the fall, but the burning that seared his throat afterward, the strange numbness creeping over his limbs, the heavy fog swallowing his thoughts, that wasn't medicine. That was intentional. More intentional than anything he'd ever imagined from a woman he once thought he loved. In the quiet he tried to swallow, tried to call out, "Elena, help!" But the most he managed was a weak inhale that barely lifted his chest. His mind replayed the moment he realized the truth. He had been lying in bed, pretending to be blind, waiting to see how Vanessa would treat him without his sight. Instead, she treated him without his humanity. She whispered into the phone, "Yes, of course the will is ready. Once the transfer is complete, I won't have to teach his brat anything. Boarding school, military school, I don't care. He's not my problem." She wasn't talking about Richard. She was talking about Gavin. And that's when Richard knew Vanessa was not just after his money. She wanted control of everything, even if that meant removing anyone who stood in her way, including him. Back downstairs, Elena seized the moment. Vanessa had driven off, probably to Dallas, probably to meet someone, probably to finalize a plan that terrified her more than anything. She climbed the stairs with a racing heart and slipped into Richard's bedroom. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting soft bands of gold across the bed. She approached slowly, whispering, "Mr. Montgomery, can you hear me?" His eyelids trembled. Elena gasped. He was in there, alive, aware. She leaned closer. "If you can hear me, move your fingers, just the smallest bit." For a moment, nothing. Then a slight twitch. Not even a full movement, just enough to catch the light. But Elena's breath hitched, her eyes filled. Okay, I'm here. I won't leave you like this." She looked around panicked. She needed proof, evidence, something more than a twitch. If she told anyone, Vanessa would twist the story and call her crazy. But maybe there was a doctor she could call. One that Vanessa didn't own. Elena reached for Richard's water jug, untouched for 2 days. His lips were cracked, dry. He was suffering. She lifted the cup with trembling hands. "Just a sip," she whispered. But before the water touched his lips, a voice cut through the doorway. "Well," Vanessa said coldly, "isn't this interesting?" Elena almost dropped the cup. Vanessa stood there, arms crossed, eyes sharp and bright with fury. She hissed, "I leave for 1 hour and you sneak in here like a thief?" Elena's voice shook. He needs water. He needs obedience, and you just proved you can't give that." Vanessa stepped forward, heels sinking into the plush carpet. Her smile was ice cold, deadly, calculated. "You're fired." Elena's jaw fell open. "What? Ma'am, please, I wasn't doing anything wrong." "Pack your tings, now. And if you step 1 foot near this room again, I'll have the sheriff drag you off the ranch." Elena froze because in that moment, she understood. Vanessa wasn't kicking her out to punish her. She was eliminating the only witness, the only threat, the only person Richard could still depend on. Vanessa leaned down beside the bed, brushing a hand along Richard's cheek in a mock gentle gesture. "You almost ruined everything, Richard. But don't worry, I'll take care of you. I always take care of what's mine." Elena felt sick. She wasn't just being fired, she was being removed from the battlefield. Vanessa stood, eyes slicing toward her. "Get out." And as Elena backed towards the door, heart pounding, she knew one thing. If she walked out of this house, Richard Montgomery would not live long enough to see another sunrise, and neither would Gavin. The trap was already closing, and Vanessa, The perfect fiancé, the beautiful socialite, was about to reveal the monster she had always been. Elena Alvarez didn't remember walking down the staircase. She didn't remember stepping outside. She didn't remember the screen door banging shut behind her as the Texas wind slapped her cheeks. All she remembered was Vanessa's voice. "Get out." Those two words echoed in her skull like a gunshot. But she couldn't leave. Not like this. Not while Richard was trapped in that room, drugged into paralysis. Not while Gavin, the sweetest, loneliest boy she'd ever cared for, was one signature away from being handed over to a woman who saw him as an obstacle. She made it halfway across the yard when she heard the soft hum of wheels against gravel. "Miss Elena?" Gavin sat in his wheelchair under the oak tree, school tablet balanced on his lap, eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Elena, why are you crying?" She hadn't realized she was. She wiped her face quickly and forced a smile. "It's just dust, mi amor. The wind is strong today." He frowned. He never believed lies, not even gentle ones. "Is it my dad?" Gavin whispered. Elena froze, because that child, he always knew. She knelt in front of him. "Your father is sleeping right now, but he needs time to get better." Gavin shook his head. Tears welled in his eyes. "No, that's not true. Something's wrong. I heard Vanessa on the phone last night." Elena's breath caught. "What did you hear, Gavin?" Gavin looked around, scared Vanessa might appear like a ghost, his voice lowered to a trembling whisper. "She said she can't wait until everything is hers." Elena's stomach turned. Gavin continued, "And she said once the paperwork goes through, she'll deal with the boy." "Elena, I think she meant me." Those words shattered whatever was left of Elena's calm. She grabbed Gavin's hands. "You listen to me, okay? I won't let anything happen to you." "But she scares me," he whispered. "She keeps locking Dad's door. She hides his pills. I saw her take them out of her purse." His voice cracked. "She isn't helping him. She's hurting him." Elena's heart squeezed painfully. This brave child, 8 years old, trapped in a wheelchair, was fighting a monster alone. No, not anymore. She squeezed his hands. "I need to go inside, but Vanessa told me to leave." Gavin wiped his eyes. "So what? Just sneak back in. You're faster than her." A weak laugh escaped Elena despite the fear. Kids. Kids always knew the simplest truth. "Okay," she said, standing, "but if I go back and she sees me, then say you forgot your phone or your jacket or your shoes. You're the maid. She never pays attention anyway." She had a point. Elena wasn't a ranch hand. She wasn't a guest. She wasn't competition. To Vanessa, she was nobody. Invisible. And that invisibility might be the only thing that could save Richard. She pushed Gavin back towards the house. "Stay here under the tree. If anyone asks, say you saw a rabbit and followed it." Gavin blinked. "Will they believe that?" "You're 8. They'll believe anything." Back inside, Elena moved silently across the foyer, avoiding windows, listening for footsteps. Vanessa's car was gone, another blessing, but she could return any moment. Elena's heartbeat thudded in her ears as she hurried upstairs towards Richard's room. She paused at the door, listening. Nothing. She pushed it open gently. Richard lay exactly as she'd left him, still, quiet, trapped beneath the weight of whatever Vanessa had given him. His breathing was shallow, but steady. "Mr. Montgomery, I think I know what she's doing to you." His eyelids flickered, just barely, but enough to answer her. She took his hand. "She's trying to kill you, And after that, she wants full control of the estate and Gavin. His fingers twitched sharply. Terror. Rage. Desperation. Elena lowered her voice to almost nothing. I'm going to get you a doctor, someone who can help, someone she doesn't control. She picked up the bottle of pills Vanessa kept hidden in the drawer. The label wasn't from any pharmacy in the county. It wasn't even from the state. No doctor name, no instructions, just a bland white sticker with a long chemical number. Elena didn't know medicines well, but she knew enough. This bottle was poison, dressed like medication. She slipped it into her apron pocket. Then, on instinct, she pulled out her phone and took pictures of the label, the pills, the drawer, the bedside table. If anything happened to Richard, this would be proof of what Vanessa had done. A noise echoed down the hall. Elena stiffened. Footsteps. Slow. Confident. Approaching. No. 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 She hurried to the closet and slipped inside, just as the bedroom door swung open. Vanessa entered. But she wasn't alone. A man followed behind her, tall, broad, wearing a suit that didn't look local. His movements were sharp, controlled, like someone used to giving orders or carrying out threats. He stood by the door while Vanessa glided towards the bed. Well, Richard, it's almost time. Time for what? Elena covered her mouth with both hands, heart slamming against her ribs. Vanessa brushed hair from his forehead, like she was smoothing the mane of a horse she owned. When you decided to test me, I'll admit I was annoyed. You thought you were so clever, falling off your horse, pretending to be blind, pretending you couldn't see the truth. The man snorted. Guy's a damn idiot. Was, not is. She leaned closer to Richard, her voice low and chilling. But you made it easier. If you had stayed normal, I'd have had to wait years, maybe decades. But a blind, bedridden man, lost in his head? Now that's a gift. Elena's blood turned to ice. Vanessa stood and nodded to the man. When the courier arrives with the final documents, we'll get his thumbprint. After that, she shrugged. We move on. The man cracked his knuckles. What about the kid? Vanessa smiled. A real smile. One without humanity. Without mercy. He'll be taken care of. Quietly. Elena's breath stopped. Richard tried to move, tried to scream, but only his fingers fluttered helplessly against the sheets. You're a monster. Elena whispered silently through the closet door. Vanessa sat on the bed, picking invisible lint from her sleeve. You know, Richard, people underestimate how freeing it is getting rid of obstacles. She leaned down, lips brushing his ear, and you were the biggest obstacle of all.
Elena didn't wait. She slipped out of the closet the second Vanessa walked to the window with the man, discussing final plans. She bolted down the back staircase, down the hall, across the kitchen, out into the open air. Gavin was still under the oak tree, watching the house nervously. "Elena?" he whispered. "What happened?" She knelt before him, grabbing the wheels of his chair. "We're leaving," she said breathlessly. "What? Why?" "Because your father is in danger," Elena said, "and so are you." Gavin's face went pale. "But who's going to help him?" Elena tightened her grip. "We are." And with that, she pushed him toward the barn, toward the only two allies they had left on the ranch. Because if they didn't act fast, Vanessa Montgomery would become the most dangerous woman in Texas, and Richard and Gavin Montgomery wouldn't live long enough to tell anyone the truth. Elena didn't stop pushing Gavin's wheelchair until they reached the shadows of the barn. Her hands were shaking so violently she could barely grip the handles.
Inside the barn, Hank and Luis, the two ranch hands Richard trusted most, were brushing down the horses. They looked up as soon as Elena rushed in. Hank frowned. "Why's the boy out here? And why you looking like you seen the devil?" Elena shut the barn door behind them, her chest heaving. "Because I have." Both men stared. Gavin's voice trembled. "She's trying to hurt my dad and me." Luis dropped the brush. Hank stepped forward, face hardening. "Start talking, now." Elena told them everything. What she'd heard in the bedroom, the man with Vanessa, the pills, the plan to get Richard's thumbprint, the threat against Gavin. When she finished, Hank swore under his breath. Luis rubbed his forehead. "This ain't just gold digger behavior. This is attempted murder." "No," Elena said, voice breaking. "This is murder planned, and she's almost done." Gavin tugged at her sleeve. "We have to help our dad. He can't move. She's going to sign papers and take everything. And then... Elena knelt beside him. "Hey, I won't let her touch you, I promise." Hank paced the barn like a caged bull. "Vanessa's got friends in high places, lawyers, investors, men who'd kill to stay on her good side. If we accuse her without proof, hell, she'll crush us." "I have proof," Elena said, pulling the pill bottle from her apron. "Photos, too." Hank's eyebrows shot up. "Well, damn." Luis leaned closer to examine the bottle. His eyes widened. "This ain't medicine. My cousin works in a lab. This is something else." Gavin shivered. Elena looked around the barn. "We need a plan." Hank nodded slowly. "First step, get the boy somewhere safe." Gavin shook his head stubbornly. "I'm not leaving my dad." "You'll be no good to him if Vanessa catches you. She's doing half this because of you. You don't understand how dangerous she is." Gavin's chin quivered. I know." Elena lifted him into her arms and hugged him tight. "Your father needs us alive, okay? He needs us to come back for him." Gavin leaned his small forehead against her shoulder, breathing in broken little gasps. Luis cleared his throat. "We should take Gavin to the bunkhouse. Lock the door, stay quiet." Elena shook her head. "No, Vanessa will check everywhere on the ranch, and that man she brought, he's not here to play nice." "True," grimaced Hank. "Then where?" Luis asked. Elena looked toward the far end of the barn, the old storm cellar. It was small, dusty, and practically forgotten. "They won't think to check the cellar," she said. "It's hidden behind the hay racks." Hank nodded. "That'll work, but we gotta move fast." They hurried to the cellar, pushing aside hay bales to reveal a wooden hatch. Hank lifted it, letting the musty scent drift up. "It ain't pretty," he warned. Elena carried Gavin down carefully, setting him on a pile of old blankets. She found a lantern, flicked it on, and tucked another blanket around him. Gavin clutched her wrist. "Don't leave me here alone." Elena kissed his forehead. "I'm not leaving you." Hank coughed awkwardly. "Someone's got to go get help." Luis nodded. "Sheriff Cole's the only one brave or stupid enough to stand up to Vanessa." Elena looked between them. "I'll go. I saw everything. I can talk to the sheriff. But the second she sees you missing, she'll know something's wrong." "Good," Elena said coldly. "Let her panic." Luis scratched his jaw. "I'll go with you. Roads ain't safe for a woman alone, not with Vanessa's people around." Hank stayed behind. "I'll guard the boy. If they come down here, they're going through me." Gavin's voice trembled. "Miss Elena?" She turned. "Promise you'll come back?" Her throat tightened. "With everything I have." She climbed back up the cellar ladder, heart heavy, and closed the hatch. Elena and Luis slipped out through the side fields, keeping low. Vanessa's SUV had returned to the driveway. Too early, too soon. She was back. Elena's heart seized. She knows something's wrong. Luis cursed softly. "We better run." They sprinted across the pasture toward the service road. Elena's lungs burned from fear and exhaustion, but she didn't stop. Gavin's face kept flashing in her mind. Richard's stillness, Vanessa's whisper. "He'll be taken care of, quietly." They reached Luis's old truck. He turned the ignition. Nothing. "What the—" The wires had been ripped out under the steering column.
Elena stepped back, horror spreading. "Luis, someone sabotaged it!" Luis jumped out. "We'll take Hank's ATV!" Elena grabbed his arm. "Luis!" He froze. A second vehicle was pulling up behind them. A black Escalade. Blacked out windows. No plates. Her stomach dropped so fast it felt like falling. The driver's door opened. It was the man from earlier, the one working with Vanessa. Broad shoulders. Dead eyes. Luis moved in front of Elena automatically. "Get behind me!" The man cracked his knuckles. "She wants the maid and the brat." Elena's blood turned cold. "Where's Vanessa?" He smirked. "Cleaning up loose ends." Luis had no weapon, neither did Elena. And in the distance, the ranch house stood ominously still, windows dark, curtains drawn, as if holding its breath. The man stepped closer. "Let's make this easy, sweetheart. Get in the car." Elena stepped back, fists clenched. "I'm not going anywhere with you." He laughed, a low, mocking sound. "Lady, I don't need your permission." He lunged. Luis shoved Elena aside and charged. The clash was brutal. Fists, dust, the grunt of bodies colliding. But the man was trained, ruthless. He struck Luis in the ribs, then the jaw. Luis went down hard. "Luis!" Elena grabbed a metal fence post and swung wildly. It slammed into the man's shoulder, knocking him sideways. He turned toward her slowly. "You shouldn't have done that." Elena stumbled backward as he advanced. But then, a gunshot cracked through the air. The man froze. Dust lifted around his boots. Another gunshot rang out. This one tore through his thigh. He collapsed to the earth, roaring in pain. Elena whirled around. Hank stood near the barn door, shotgun braced against his shoulder, eyes blazing. "Get away from my people!" he snarled. Luis staggered up, coughing. Elena ran to him, relief flooding her. Hank lowered the gun, but kept it ready. "Get Gavin, now! They ain't done!" Elena nodded, her heart racing. But then, a sharp scream echoed from the ranch house. A woman's scream. Vanessa! Followed by a loud crash. Hank lifted the shotgun again. "What the hell is going on in that house?" Elena steadied herself. "Whatever it is, it's only the beginning."
The scream coming from the ranch house sliced through the air like a blade. It wasn't fear. It wasn't pain. It was rage. A furious, skin-crawling, feral rage. Vanessa. Elena froze mid-step, her heart hammering. Luis steadied himself beside her, clutching his ribs. Hank didn't waste a second. He pumped the shotgun once and growled, "She figured it out. The kid's missing." A second scream erupted, louder, rawer. "I told you to watch him!" Then something shattered. Glass, maybe. A lamp hurled against a wall with violent force. Elena took a shaking breath. She's gonna find the cellar. "No," Hank said, jaw tight. "She'll search the house first, then the guest rooms, then outside. We got time." Elena prayed he was right. Inside the mansion, doors slammed, furniture toppled. Vanessa's heels thundered across the hardwood, punctuated by vicious curses. Every sound carried across the open fields. Luis swallowed. "She's losing her mind." "No," Hank muttered. "She's calculating. This is a cornered wolf." Then, silence. A terrifying silence. Elena's blood went cold. "Why did she stop?" she whispered. Hank's voice dropped. "She's thinking. Thinking of her next move. Thinking of how to regain control. Thinking of who to destroy first." A moment later, Vanessa's sharp, icy voice echoed from the front porch. "Hank! Luis! Elena! I know you can hear me!" Hank lifted the shotgun higher. She stepped outside, her white dress now disheveled, mascara streaked down her cheeks, hair wild around her shoulders. In one hand, she clutched a phone. In the other, a pistol. Elena grabbed Luis's arm. "She's armed."
Vanessa scanned the property like a hawk, her breathing unstable. "Bring me the boy," she screamed, voice cracking, "or Richard dies in the next 10 minutes. Luis whispered, horrified. "She'll actually do it." Elena stepped forward before Hank could stop her. "You won't hurt Richard," she called out. Vanessa's head snapped towards the barn, her eyes flickered with venom. "Elena! The little cockroach with a mop," she shrieked. "Come out here before I come in there with bullets." Hank pulled Elena back. "She wants you. Don't give her what she wants." But Elena shook her head. "She won't stop. She'll tear this entire ranch apart until she finds Gavin. We have to stall her." "No," Louis said firmly. "We need to get the sheriff first." "And how do we do that? She sabotaged the truck, probably cut the phone lines. We can't outrun her, not with that man she brought." Luis gritted his teeth. "He's not walking anywhere with that bullet in him." Hank exhaled. "We split up. I'll distract her. Luis, take Elena and get to the horse stalls. Ride out to the county road. It's 10 miles, but you can make it." Elena shook her head. "I'm not leaving Gavin." "You have to," Hank said softly. "You're the only one who knows what she was planning. The only one who can talk to the sheriff." "And what about you?" Elena whispered. Hank broke the shotgun open and checked the shells. "I'm gonna keep a demon occupied." Elena's throat tightened. "She'll kill you." He shrugged. "I sure hope she tries." But before they could move, the ranch house door slammed again, hard enough to rattle the hinges. This time, it wasn't Vanessa who stepped out. It was Richard. Barely conscious, staggering, supported by one hand dragging against the railing. His eyes were foggy, unfocused, but he wasn't blind anymore. Not fully, not quite. He looked like he was fighting through a storm inside his head. He clung to the porch post and shouted, hoarse, "Gavin! Where is Gavin?" Vanessa spun around, startled. "Oh, Richard, come back inside. You're not well." He shook his head weakly. "Where is my son? Elena took him. To hurt you, to hurt both of us." Hank's knuckles whitened on the shotgun. Elena stepped forward. "Richard, I swear, Gavin is safe. She's lying." Vanessa's voice snapped into ice. "Shut up!" She raised the pistol towards the barn. Hank grabbed Elena and shoved her behind a stack of hay bales as a gunshot ripped through the air. The bullet splintered the wooden beam inches above Elena's head. Louise cursed and ducked. "She's shooting at us!" Another shot blasted through the barn wall. "Come out, or I'll end this entire ranch myself." In the distance, horses neighed in panic. Richard shook visibly on the porch, hands gripping the railing. "Richard, Vanessa, stop!" She turned her gun toward him. "Go inside." "No." The word was soft, but full of something she wasn't expecting. Strength. Defiance. Clarity. Vanessa's face contorted. "Richard, darling, don't make this harder." Richard swallowed. His voice was slow, struggling, but deliberate. "Tell me what you gave me." Vanessa stiffened. "You fell." "No," he said, eyes clearing a little more. "I tasted something bitter in the water." Elena sucked in a breath. He remembered. Vanessa smiled, cold, wicked. "Then you should have died faster." Richard's knees buckled. Elena started to run toward him, but Hank seized her. "No, she'll shoot you." Vanessa aimed at Richard's chest. "You were supposed to be blind, not nosy." Luis whispered, "We need to move now." Before anyone could act, another sound broke the chaos. A faint cry. Small. Desperate. Coming from behind the porch.
Dad? Gavin. Vanessa's head wept toward the voice. Elena's heart dropped into her stomach. He'd escaped the cellar somehow. He'd crawled, rolled, dragged himself back to the one person he loved most. Now, he was exposed. No! Gavin, go back! Go back! Vanessa smiled slowly. Well, isn't that precious? She redirected the pistol towards the child. Hank lifted the shotgun. Don't even think about it, he growled. Vanessa laughed. Oh, Hank, you think I won't shoot a crippled kid? She pulled the hammer back. Elena sprinted. Stop! She swung the gun toward her, but Richard moved first. With a surge of rage and instinct, he lunged off the porch, tackling Vanessa to the ground with more strength than anyone thought he still had. He clawed his face, kicked his ribs, grabbed a rock. Elena! Gavin! Help him! She turned. Vanessa raised the rock high above Richard's head. Hank fired. The shotgun blast wasn't aimed at her. He shot the ground beside her, dirt exploding, horses screaming. The shockwave knocked Vanessa backward long enough for Richard to crawl away. But she wasn't done. She scrambled for the fallen pistol. Louise sprinted toward her. No! She grabbed the gun. Louise tackled her. Another deafening shot went off. Louise collapsed with a cry. Elena! Louise! Vanessa stood over him, shaking, bleeding from the arm, but smiling like a demon. No more games, she hissed. I finish this now. She pointed the gun towards Elena and Gavin. Richard pushed himself upright. Vanessa, don't hurt my... Vanessa didn't even look at him. She pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. Hank exhaled in shock. I fired all her bullets when I winged the bastard earlier. She only had 3. Vanessa stared blankly at the useless pistol. Then her face twisted into raw animal rage. She charged at Elena barehanded. Elena shielded Gavin with her body, but before Vanessa could reach them, Richard slammed into her again. All 3 went down in a violent heap just as distant sirens began wailing towards the ranch. The sheriff. Finally. Elena clutched Gavin tighter, whispering, It's over. It's finally over. But it wasn't. Not yet. Because Vanessa Montgomery, bleeding, breathless, wild, looked up at Elena with one final, chilling promise. This ranch isn't big enough to hide any of you. The sirens grew louder, closer. The reckoning was coming. And someone wasn't walking away alive. The night Richard woke up in the ICU, everything felt wrong. The world was blurry, shapes bending into light, voices echoing as if drifting through water. His body was heavy, wrapped in wires, monitors, and the sharp scent of disinfectant. For a moment, he didn't even know where he was, only that someone was holding his hand. Small, warm, trembling. Dad, Gavin whispered, please wake up. Richard's eyelids struggled open. The first thing he saw was his son's face, tear-streaked and frightened, but more alive than ever. And then it hit him like a shot of electricity. He could see, perfectly, every line of his son's face, every flicker of movement, every color in the room. His heart thundered as memories came crashing back. The stable, Vanessa's scream, the shove, the world going black, and Emma pulling him out of the fire of lies he'd been drowning in. Gavin, he breathed. His voice cracked. He hadn't expected those to be the first words he spoke. Gavin's face lit up. Dad, you're awake. Emma said you would be. She never left the hospital, not even once. Richard looked around wildly. Where is she? Gavin pointed toward the hallway, where soft footsteps echoed, and then Emma appeared. Exhausted,
hair tied back in a messy bun, still wearing the same jeans and ranch jacket she'd had on the day of his fall. A paper cup of vending machine coffee shook slightly in her hands. The moment she saw him awake, her breath hitched. The cup fell to the floor. "Mr. Montgomery? Can you hear me?" But she wasn't surprised. Not exactly. More like relieved. Deeply, intensely relieved. He tried to sit up. Pain shot through him, sharp and immediate, but he didn't care. "Emma." Her eyes widened. She hadn't heard him say his name like that before. Not soft, not grateful, not raw. "Don't move," she rushed to say. "The doctor said—" "Emma," he repeated, stronger. "Come here." She stepped closer uncertainly, stopping at the edge of his bed. Gavin climbed into the chair beside him, holding his father's wrist, as if afraid he'd disappear again. Richard reached out with trembling fingers. Emma took his hand. The world steadied. "Thank you," he said, "for saving my life." She swallowed hard, shaking her head. "No, you saved your own life by finally opening your eyes." He gave a faint huff. "Not when I needed to the most." Her gaze softened in a way he rarely saw. Quiet, steady, brave. "You trusted the wrong person. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." Behind her gentle tone, she sensed something else. Fear. A heavy, suffocating fear she'd been carrying alone. "What happened after she shoved me?" Emma exhaled shakily. "Vanessa tried to leave you there. If I hadn't come into the stable at the exact moment I did," she broke, "you would have died." Gavin gripped his wrist tighter. "Emma pulled you out before the horse crushed you, Dad." Richard stared at her in horrified disbelief. "She risked her life for me." He wanted to sit up again, to reach her properly this time, but Emma placed her palm gently on his chest. "Richard," she murmured, using his first name for the first time ever, "please don't push yourself." It struck him that she'd never touched him this way, not even when he was pretending to be blind, not even when she guided him around the house. That had been duty. This was care. This was something else entirely. He managed a breath. "Emma, did Vanessa say anything after the fall?" Her eyes darkened. "She ran, took off in her car before anyone saw her, but she left something behind." "What?" Emma hesitated, then pulled a crumpled envelope from her jacket pocket, the same envelope she had found hidden inside Vanessa's closet. "I haven't shown this to anyone else yet, not until you woke up." Richard took it with trembling hands. Inside were bank statements, transfers, private accounts, cash withdrawals, all leading to one horrifying truth. Vanessa had been planning to drain him dry. But that wasn't the worst part. At the bottom of the stack was a note, written in Vanessa's handwriting. "Once he's blind for good, everything becomes easier." Richard felt the blood drain from his face. She hadn't just been manipulating him. She hadn't just been deceiving him. She hadn't just been using him. She wanted him helpless. Forever. Gavin watched his father's expression collapse. "Dad, what does it say?" Richard forced himself to breathe. "Nothing you need to worry about right now, champ." But Emma stepped closer. "He deserves to know. You both do." She took a steadying breath. "Vanessa wasn't planning to stop at stealing your money. She wanted control of the entire ranch, everything, including Gavin's trust fund. And she was willing to make you permanently blind to get it." Gavin's eyes went wide with terror. "She wanted to hurt my dad?" Emma nodded. Richard clenched his jaw. Fury rose inside him, hot, violent, unrestrained. It burned through his ribs, through the fog of pain and medication. "She tried to kill him," Gavin whispered. "She tried to take him from me." Richard pulled his son into a tight, protective hold. "She will never come near us again. Ever." Emma watched them with quiet, unspoken emotion. The bond between father and son, the thing Vanessa had always hated, was stronger than ever. The doctor entered moments later, shocked and relieved to see Richard awake.
But while he inspected the monitors and checked vitals, Richard's eyes stayed locked on Emma. She had been there every moment. She had protected Gavin. She had saved him from Vanessa's trap. She had risked her own life without hesitation. And she had discovered the truth he'd been too blind to see long before he faked losing his sight. When the doctor stepped out, Richard spoke again, voice low. "Emma, I owe you more than I can ever repay." "You owe me nothing," she murmured. "I just did what anyone with a conscience would have done." "That's not true," he said. "Most people would have walked away." She looked away, but not before he saw the shimmer of tears she'd been hiding for days. "Vanessa is still out there," Emma whispered, "and she's angry, dangerous. If she learns you can see again, she might come back." Richard lifted his chin, a fire igniting inside him. "Good." Emma blinked. "Good? Because I'm done hiding. I'm done pretending to be blind. I'm done letting her call the shots." He tightened his grip on her hand, firm, unshaken. She wanted a helpless man. He met Emma's eyes. She's about to face one who can see everything. A beat of silence filled the room. Emma exhaled, breath trembling. So what now? Now, Richard thought, the war begins. But he only said, "We bring her down. Together."
The storm hit the ranch the same night Richard was released from the hospital. Lightning split the sky wide open, illuminating the Montgomery property in stark flashes, barns, fences, fields, then plunging everything back into darkness. The wind howled like something ancient trying to claw its way inside. It was fitting, Richard thought, a storm to match the war that was coming. Emma stood beside him near the window of his study, arms crossed tightly over her chest. She'd refused to leave him and Gavin alone, and Richard didn't have the heart, or desire, to ask her to. He needed her close, her instincts, her bravery, her quiet strength. And Gavin needed her even more. The boy sat curled on the leather couch, knees to his chest, sketching nervously in a notepad. Every time thunder cracked, he jumped. Richard watched him with aching tenderness. "You're safe," he told his son. "I know," Gavin said quietly, though his small shoulders trembled. Emma moved to him, resting a comforting hand on his back. He leaned into her instantly, trusting her the way children only trust the people who show up when it matters. Richard turned back to the window. "She's out there," he murmured. Emma nodded. "And she knows you can see again." He didn't ask how. He didn't need to. Vanessa always had a way of finding out things she wasn't meant to know. Manipulation and eavesdropping were her craft. She had spent years sharpening them. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly had prepared for, was that Richard wasn't the blind, vulnerable man she thought he was. He was ready. The entire ranch had been quietly locked down, security cameras checked, workers warned. The sheriff was on standby. And still, Richard felt her coming. Vanessa wasn't the type to slink away in shame. She was a predator, and predators returned for unfinished meals. Emma moved to stand beside him again. "When she shows up, stay behind me." Richard snorted softly. "I'm not letting a maid fight my battles." She shot him a glare sharp enough to slice steel. "First of all, I'm not a maid. I'm the person who dragged your unconscious body out of a stable while a 1,000-pound horse tried to stomp you into dust. And second, Vanessa is not going to hesitate. She's not afraid of you." Richard's jaw tightened. She should be. Emma stepped closer, close enough that he could feel her warmth through the storm-chilled air. "Richard," she whispered, softer now, "I'm not trying to protect you because I think you're weak. I'm trying because I care." His breath caught. She looked away instantly, cheeks flushing. "Forget I said that. It's been a long week." He didn't forget. He couldn't. But before he could respond, headlights cut through the darkness. A car turned sharply onto the ranch road, skidding through mud, tires slicing the earth as if fleeing something or hunting something. Richard's pulse spiked. She's here. Gavin looked up, eyes wide with terror. Emma wrapped her arms around him instinctively. "Stay with me," she whispered. Richard grabbed the phone to alert security, but the line was dead. Cut. Emma cursed under her breath. She got to the wires. Thunder cracked again, rattling the windows. Richard moved toward the door, adrenaline pumping fire through his veins. Then a shadow appeared on the porch, a silhouette soaked in rain, hair plastered to her face, eyes burning through the storm like something feral. Vanessa. Emma grabbed Gavin and pulled them toward the back hallway. "Go. Hide. Don't come out until I get you." Richard tried to stop them. "No, stay together." Emma touched his shoulder. "You stop her. I'll protect him." Before he could argue, she disappeared with Gavin into the darkness of the hallway. Richard exhaled sharply. Then he opened the front door. Lightning illuminated Vanessa fully. She looked unhinged. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, rain dripping from her clothes, hair wild around her face. But worst of all was the expression, a twisted mixture of rage, betrayal, and obsession. "Richard," she breathed, tilting her head with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're alive." "I am, and I can see." The smile twitched. "Emma," she hissed, "that stupid little maid told you, didn't she? Told you everything?" "We know the truth, your lies, your plans, your bank accounts, and what you tried to do to me." Her jaw clenched. "I didn't try to do anything. You pushed me," he said coldly. "You left me there to die." She laughed, a laugh that echoed unnaturally in the storm. "Please, if I really wanted you dead, Richard, you'd be dead." Lightning split the sky behind her. Richard stepped forward. "You're not stepping foot in this house again." "Oh, I'm coming in," Vanessa said, "because something in this house belongs to me." Richard froze. "Gavin?" he whispered. Vanessa smirked. "You think I didn't know? You think I didn't hear about his trust account? His inheritance?" Richard's blood went cold. "You're sick," he whispered. "No," she said, stepping closer, rain dripping from her manicured fingers. "I'm practical. Do you know how expensive my life is, Richard? Do you know how far your fortune can go in the right hands? My hands?" "You were going to steal from my son?" She shrugged. "He won't even remember." Rage, real, primal, vicious, surged through Richard's entire body, but before he could react, Vanessa lunged, forcing her way into the foyer, shoving him backward with surprising strength. He grabbed her wrist, twisting, restraining her. "Stop, Vanessa, stop this!" "Let go of me!" she shrieked, grabbing the nearest object, a wine bottle left on the table, and smashing it against the wall. Jagged glass glinted in her hand. "Vanessa?" She swung. Richard ducked, barely missing the blade. The broken glass slashed across his arm, drawing blood instantly. He hissed in pain. Vanessa smiled. "You're blind again now, aren't you? Can't see where I'm coming from." Richard straightened slowly and stared right into her eyes. "I see you," he said, "for the first time." Her face twisted. "You idiot, I'm the best thing that ever happened to you. You're the worst thing that ever happened to me, but I promise you, after tonight, you'll never hurt anyone again." Her expression curdled into fury. She lunged. He stepped back. Emma's voice exploded behind them. "Enough!" Vanessa spun around. Emma stood at the top of the stairs, breath heaving, eyes blazing with a fury Richard had never seen in her before. "You want someone helpless? Try me." Vanessa charged at her. Richard lunged to stop her, but Emma was faster. She dodged the broken bottle, grabbed Vanessa's wrist, twisted it hard enough to make the glass clatter to the floor, then shoved her backward. Vanessa slipped on the rainwater she had dragged inside and fell. Not all the way down, but enough. Her ankle cracked loudly on the step. She shrieked. Richard grabbed Emma's hand, pulling her back as Vanessa writhed in pain, gripping the banister. "Don't move," he warned coldly. "The police are on the way." "No!" she screamed. "You can't! Richard, please! I love you!" "You love money," he said, "and you lost." Sirens wailed in the distance. Vanessa crawled backward on the stairs, tears mixing with rainwater and rage. "Emma did this," she spat. "She poisoned you against me. She wants your money. She wants you." Richard stepped between them. "Emma saved my life. That's what love looks like." Vanessa froze. For the first time, she understood. She had lost him. Completely. Sheriff deputies burst through the door seconds later, guns raised, storm jackets dripping water. They restrained Vanessa, ignoring her screams, her pleas, her curses. She fought like a trapped animal, but it didn't matter. The war was over. Richard watched as they dragged her out through the rain. Emma stood beside him, trembling with adrenaline. "Are you okay?" she whispered. He looked at her. Really looked at her. Her soaked hair, her scraped knuckles, her fierce, terrified eyes. "Emma," he said quietly. "Yes?" He took her hand. "I can see again, and I'm choosing you." She inhaled sharply, but didn't pull away. Gavin peeked from behind the hallway, trembling until Emma held her arms open for him. He ran to her instantly, hugging her waist tight. Richard watched them, emotion thick in his throat. His family. His real family. Not the one he had stumbled into with Vanessa. The one he found in the woman who protected them both, even when it almost cost her everything. Outside, the deputies pushed Vanessa into the back of the cruiser. Inside, Richard finally let the storm inside him go. He pulled Emma and Gavin into a tight embrace. And in that moment, with thunder cracking and the world shifting around them, Richard Montgomery knew. This wasn't the end of a nightmare. It was the beginning of a life where he wasn't blind anymore. Not to danger, not to lies, not to love. The final reckoning was over, but the real future, their future, was finally ready to begin.